Hi, my name is Beth. I am the social worker. I'm glad you came in today. It sounded like, just from some of the paperwork that you filled out, that you were interested in becoming a little bit more healthy and maybe getting a little bit more active. So can you start by telling me a little bit about how active you are right now?
I work out like 1 to 2 days a week.
Okay. And are you in school right now, or are you working?
I'm a full-time student and I work.
Okay. So you've got a lot on your plate, sounds like. So sounds like trying to fit this in on top of everything else you have to do. Okay. So so given everything else that you have to do, how confident are you that you could make time on like a scale of 1 to 10? How confident are you that you could work to fit some time into?
Probably like an 8.
An 8? So you feel pretty confident. And that this is something you are interested in doing. So you feel pretty confident that you could make the time for it. And it's something you'd like to do. What do you think the benefits are then? Like in your mind, what would be the benefits of getting more active and
stress relief and just overall health improvement.
Mm-hmm. And then like for, currently only working out maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, what would the downside be then to carving out this time?
I'd have less time to study or relax.
And what are you studying?
I'm studying nursing.
Okay. And you said you work as well.
Mm-hmm.
And about how much time per week do you work?
I work about 15 hours a week.
Okay. And on top of full-time class.
Right.
So, but you feel that you're pretty confident that you could do it. So you said you're an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10. So what makes it an 8 and not a 7?
I don't know, I just feel like, like a 3-mile run could be like 30 minutes, and that's not a huge bulk of time out of my day.
Mm-hmm.
If I have 30 minutes, then I could go and run rather than sitting on like social media or something.
Mm-hmm. So that would be a pro then, would be doing something, would you consider that productive as opposed to?
Yeah, productive rather than just sitting on social media and laying in bed or something.
Okay. And so tell me about a typical day of schedule.
I get up and I go to class from 8 a.m. to about 11, and then I have a little break, and usually I work during that time, and then I go back to class until 4:30, and after that I'm free during my day. But depending on the day, some days I'm in class straight from 8 a.m. to 4:30 without breaks, or I'm at clinicals or something.
Mm-hmm. So has there been at all, thinking back, has there ever been something like a change you wanted to make that you, adding something to your schedule or doing something different? Has there ever been a change that you've made before that worked well?
Yeah, finding exercises that I can do like at my house, or something that doesn't take a long time, like a 30-minute walk to the gym and then an hour workout there, like doing more of like high intensity intervals that take less time but are still really productive.
Okay.
Stuff like that helps to decrease the time needed in the gym.
Okay. So it sounds like you've worked on building little bits of it into your day. And when you were kind of establishing that and learning how to do that, what did you find most helpful to make these changes? Or
being consistent, like even if I didn't want to do it, making myself do it. And then having someone to kind of like, hey, did you do your workout today or something?
So an accountability partner. Okay. So you said you do work out from time to time, and that you've been able to consolidate some of this into little chunks of time. But if you're interested in doing more, something like running, as you said earlier, it would be more like 30 minutes.
Right.
As opposed to just those little times. So, and you mentioned that consistency was helpful in changing previously. So, and I should also say, you said in your schedule that you have a certain, like, your schedule varies a little bit. So, when you say that you're pretty confident in finding this time, and that you've been able to make these small changes before, what do you think, do you imagine a time of day that would probably work best for you? Or is there a time of day, or is that something that you might need to find little times to fit in, like you mentioned with the other thing?
I think, like, say, like, on a day where I have that break in between classes, like, that would be a good way to get my mind off of class for a second and then come back and shower and go back to class. But on days when I'm in class all the time, you know, not compromising my sleep for it and just doing it right after class as kind of like a cool down from the day.
And so those both sound like very reasonable ways to do it. So with, as you mentioned, an accountability partner was helpful for you. Is there somebody that you see in class or during the day that you might be able to ask to hold you accountable and say, ask, check in with you?
My roommate is very much into fitness and likes to ask, like, have you worked out this week or whatever. So she would be a good person to kind of like keep me accountable on a daily basis since I see her all the time.
And how comfortable would you feel in asking her to do that?
Pretty comfortable.
Very comfortable. So it sounds like you feel very confident that you could add this to your schedule. You've done things in the past that have helped, start to build a little bit of a routine. And so as you built this routine, but in little pieces as opposed to something longer, like a run.
Right.
So how much do you mentioned high intensity interval training, that's very strength based, isn't it? Is it cardio? Is there cardio involved?
Yeah, it's kind of like a mix of cardio and strength that you're focusing on, like a lot of movements in a very short amount of time. So that could be either like a cardio move, like, I don't know, jumping jacks or burpees or something, but you could also do it with weights and such to build strength.
Okay. And as far as, running is a slightly different, what steps do you think you would need to take, let's start with the schedule. You mentioned that there are certain periods of time you think would work well. What steps do you think you would need to take in order to put that into your routine?
Getting new running shoes, just like getting all of the supplies I would need for a run, and per se like having them ready when I wake up or something, or when I get home from class, like before I go to class, setting out my running shoes and my phone and like my phone band and stuff, so that I have it ready to go and it's already out and I can just put everything on and go, instead of like taking my time and looking and whatnot.
And especially as one of your options was in between class, would there need to be things you need to think about for a backpack or anything?
Usually I come home in between classes. I don't live too far away from my classes, so just, like maybe if there's a project that needs to be due at that next class, having it already done so that I'm not worried about that and I can focus on a run.
And how confident are you, again, let's say 1 through 10, on being able to have those things set out, or those, assignments done ahead of time?
10.
A 10? You feel very confident that you could do that. Okay. And are there so those are the steps to getting the routine established. Are there any things, health-wise or physical well, as you mentioned, 3 miles could be 30 minutes. But as this isn't something you do all that often, are there steps that would be involved to get you, sounds like, to a level where that might be a goal?
Yeah, I mean, working up to it. So starting out with, maybe less mileage and a faster pace, or a slower pace and more mileage kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Just going on a run and seeing where my baseline is without feeling like I'm dying or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And you said that your roommate, who would be kind of your accountability
Mm-hmm.
partner in this, is active herself
Yes.
and involved. Could she potentially be somebody that you look to help kind of as you establish this? Like, give
Yeah,
you
she's been a runner since she was young,
Mm-hmm.
so she knows a lot and is very knowledgeable about pacing and how to work up to higher mileage.
Well, I think it sounds like you've got a good base for a plan of steps you want to take, and starting to establish a routine of putting your supplies and equipment out, staying on top of assignments, and then working with your roommate to get yourself, for not to mean this to be a pun, but up to speed, and as you run more. And I think then maybe we can meet next time and we'll check in and see if you've been able, if how well it's working to run at these certain times, and then potentially see where we can go from there.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.